Bit of a boat-themed video for you today, and how to start a conspiracy theory. Hi, this is Everyday Prepper. Welcome to the channel. Hi, I'm back on the boat again. It's been a little while. I'm going to be talking about the Bayesian sinking that's been in the news of late. It's been all over the news. So I'm going to turn the camera off in a sec, and it's just going to be me talking about some theories behind what's going on here, and really just to demonstrate, be careful what you read about on the news, be careful what you believe on the news. In the meantime, it's good to be back on the boat. I'm staying on overnight, been doing some work down here, and cooking up a chilli. Far too late. I'm going to be up all night needing to eat Rennie, no doubt. But anyway, here goes, and I hope you find this interesting. Right, so I wanted to look at a particular story on the news, and you're probably thinking, well, why is he covering this on a prepper channel? It's just really to highlight how you've got to be careful what you see on the news. We've had a lot of supposed misinformation recently that they're saying caused a lot of the unrest and stuff like that over the last few weeks. And you've got to be careful with how you interpret the news as it's reported, because they don't always tell you the full story. And I'm going to demonstrate that on this particular story about the Bayesian yacht that sunk on Monday morning, and the circumstances around it. Now, there's quite a lot of anomalies here in the way that this is being reported. There's a lot of things being left out. So, what do they expect? So, I've titled this How Conspiracy Theories Start, and I've got my own theories on what could have happened. I'm dubious as to whether what they say happened really happened. And here's the reasoning behind it. So, first of all, they said there was just one little anomaly where they said that due to there was a big storm apparently on Monday at about 4:30 in the morning, which potentially had so it was a big storm with high winds and probably rough seas. The boat or the yacht was moored in a fairly safe area according to various other captains' assessments. And it would have been, he said, it would have been extremely unnerving to find that there had been a tornado or a water spout type of storm that went over this particular boat at that time. Exceedingly rare. So that's just one thing that there's not enough information about that. So I went on to a historic website for weather and had a look at the town, which is where are we? Palermo in Italy, just off of northern Sicily, where the boat was supposedly moored. I don't know quite how far out it was, but literally between 3 a.m. and 9 a.m. there's quite a large drop in temperature of about, let's have a look, 8 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a drop in temperature, and then you've got a spike in the wind from sort of 10 miles per hour, 10 to 12 to 15 miles per hour, spikes up to about 30 miles per hour, gusting at 43. Now, I've done some research, and to overturn a yacht like this without its sails up, with just the mast up, would take winds of kind of 100 miles an hour or so, unless there was something else going on. And the reason for that is, they talk about the mast being up, the sails were down. The mast was a 70-metre mast. The boat is about between 30 and 50 metres long. And the mast would have presented a large net area for winds to affect. Well, what they're not mentioning and not taking into account is that a boat of that size would have a keel, which usually ensures that these things don't capsize, and the keel would have been in excess of 30 tons. These things have massive keels, which is why it's very rare for them to go over. Now, I'm going to get on to who was on board in a second, because that then opens up all sorts of questions as to these things of this size don't normally capsize, they don't go over. But when you look at who was on board and then the circumstances around it, and then the events a few days before, it kind of opens itself up really to a different story than what we're being told. So, first of all, on Sky News it said that due to warm weather, all the windows and doors may have been open on the boat, which if it was to list in a particular direction in the storm, then the water could have flooded the doors and windows. And then they countered it themselves by the fact that there were aircon units in most rooms, so it wouldn't have needed to have all the windows and doors open to keep them cool, because the weather was very, very warm, especially down that neck of the woods. You'd think that would have all been cleared up by dive reports. So we know divers have been down there. We know, although it's at 50 metres depth, was a bit of an awkward depth to dive at. But again, more anomalies on what they've reported there, which I'll cover in a sec. So dive reports could have easily said, yeah, all the windows were open or all the windows were closed. That would be very, very easy. So although they are doing an inquest into what happened, well, I know for a fact that lies happen at inquests. I know that from personal experience because I've been in court on an inquest about a family member, and I'm not going to go into detail, but there were blatant lies in court under oath by police and officials and judges, etc. So we know that happens. If it happened to me, it must happen elsewhere. So there was no real major storm showing on this historic weather site. There were apparently eyewitness accounts of a tornado or a water funnel, water spout, which is basically a tornado over water where it picks up water, and that could have taken out the boat because you get winds of up to sort of 300 miles an hour winds in tornadoes. But again, there's no evidence of that on satellite imagery or anything like that at all. Whether that would have been picked up, I don't know enough about it. But they're basing that on eyewitness reports. The footage that there's loads of posts here, and I didn't realise sort of just before I was recording the video that there's a load of different theories and stuff online on Twitter. I had a brief look on there just to check if I could see any more footage of the CCTV footage. So they've got CCTV footage the moment before the boat sinks, apparently. All the footage that I can find literally shows about 10 or 20 seconds of the boat, the mast just swaying in the wind, which it would do if the sea was a little bit rough and in stormy weather. It doesn't show it capsizing, it doesn't show the mast hitting the water, and it certainly doesn't show the moment before the boat sinks. So does the CCTV show the whole thing? Because it would show the boat sinking and everything, wouldn't it? All right, they might not show that because it's distressing. And I will just say, despite who was on board and the circumstances under all of this, obviously I hope everyone that can has escaped and survives this. It's pretty traumatic for everybody. But again, there's some just weird anomalies. So that's the CCTV clip that they're basing a lot of it on. You would need 100-mile-an-hour winds at least. Then you've got Charlotte Galinsky, a British woman who was on the boat, was rescued. She used a life raft to get back, and a doctor in Italy, or they got rescued from the life raft is what I'm saying. The doctor in Italy that saw her afterwards said that she was asleep on deck with her daughter when it all took place, didn't know what was going on and woke up in water. So, and again, it's a bit odd. You're sleeping through a major storm. You just happen to wake up in water. No more report than that. You got nothing else to say. Just find that a bit odd. No mention anywhere of a mayday call by the captain at any point anywhere in the news. Now, if it was a 100-mile-an-hour hurricane or a storm, they would have had literally possibly a week or certainly several days to see this coming. If it was a tornado or some kind of water spout, they wouldn't have had much notice, but they would have had some notice, and there would have been time for a mayday call. So that's a bit odd. The captain has survived, so it'd be interesting what he's got to say for himself. And then, the where it was moored was deemed safe, as I mentioned earlier. There's quotes saying the vessel was at anchor in a recognised anchorage. Depending on wind direction and the state of the sea, this informs the captain whether it is a safe area to anchor or not. There was nothing that was too concerning for my eye. All in all, the captain used the information they had to make a safe call. So they were in a safe area, and it doesn't sound like any other big boats went down. Pretty strange there. The other thing that's really odd is that the Mike Lynch, who is missing, who is known apparently as the British Bill Gates. I'd never heard of him. But he was involved in a court case where he was extradited to face Hewlett Packard, where he'd sold part of his company to them and overinflated the price according to them. He was completely acquitted, but he had 15 charges. And we're talking, in the billions, $5 billion or pounds. It could have affected the stock markets, that kind of thing. So it was a big case. But he was acquitted in June, so quite recently. His associate, Stephen Chamberlain, who was also instigated in all of this, I suppose, fraud, happened to be killed by being hit by a car whilst running in Cambridgeshire on Saturday, just gone. And the boat sank on Monday. So that is just really, really odd. Then they're saying that the news is stating the divers are limited to diving for 12 minutes due to the water pressure. Well, I have dived. I'm a qualified diver. 160 feet is around 49 metres, so say 50 metres depth. It's a bit of a tricky depth. I've dived for longer than 12 minutes at 35 metres, and you have a lot of decompression on the way back up, up to sort of half an hour or even more, to get to the surface safely without experiencing the bends. However, there are certain mixes of breathing mixture that they can put in the tanks. Rather than just having compressed air, they can put something called heliox, or a mixture of helium and oxygen, and that can pretty much eliminate the nitrogen absorption, so they can stay at that depth for much longer. Although they'll still have a lot more decompression when they come back up. But yeah, I mean, diving at 100 metres, people can dive down to 300 metres if they've got the right mix. But they will sometimes have to go through sort of pre-compression on the way down. So there are ways of doing it. So to write it off and just say they've only got 12 minutes is not entirely accurate. And this is what I'm looking for, is accuracy. So there's many other ways that the boat like this could sink very quickly and remain intact. I noticed that they said the boat was found intact. So they haven't given any other detail about it, but there was no damage to it. So there's no blast hole, there was no, bullet rounds in the side of the boat or anything like that. I'm just thinking of other ways that this could have gone down. But if the portholes were left open and it listed enough for the seawater to get in, or plumbing issues like a seal around a bilge pump or a seacock accidentally left open, because they use seacocks for the toileting system. If that was accidentally left open or wasn't automated, or something went down there, that could cause a flood of water, which could rapidly flood an area and sink a boat like that. Fire extinguishers, if there was a small fire on board, could flood an area with extra weight, depending on the type of fire extinguisher, and that could cause the boat to go off balance, take on water rapidly. So yeah, lots of other ways that it could have gone down, and I can't see any concrete evidence of this storm. Certainly not the kind of storm that would take out a boat like this. They're also saying in the news that there could be, they're hoping and praying that there could be a pocket of air in the boat keeping people alive. Well, the reason why this wouldn't work is that any air sealed in the boat would be under so much pressure, because it's at 50 metres depth. Because of the water pressure outside the vessel, the air pressure would be immensely compressed. Breathing air at that kind of pressure, which is what they'd be doing, would require massive decompression on the way back up, even if they'd been down there for a few minutes. Now, bear in mind, they would have been there since Monday, Divers would struggle to be down there for longer than 12 minutes, even with a special mix. So the whole thing is just not feasible that they're going to be rescued if they were in a pocket of air. So if they are brought up, having survived on a pocket of air, I would seriously doubt that news. So yeah, all a bit odd. And I just wanted to make a point, that the news is they never tell you the whole story. There's always something else going on. And they'll lead you down a certain path. So, when you saw all this unrest over the last couple of weeks, again, it was reported, there was a lot of one-side reporting, there was a lot of scaremongering, a lot of talk of misinformation, disinformation online, all that sort of stuff. And you just get it with almost every news item. So you just got to be really careful that, unless you were there on that vessel, we're not going to really get the full story. Even reports from survivors might be doctored, or they might, if they're in on it, I don't know. It could just be a storm took the boat down, and it happened to be that there's some billionaires on there, because these kind of yachts are generally only owned by billionaires. But you don't hear of it very often, and then when you look into what's just happened, he's been extradited to the States and got acquitted in June. There's going to be some people who wanted him done for various reasons were going to be very miffed that he was acquitted, namely Hewlett-Packard. And we know that big companies have ways of silencing people, so you never know. There could be nothing to it. But there could be something to it, and there's a whole host of stuff online now, and I didn't realise until I'd put all this together. But it was just a quick observation. Being a boater myself, keen on boating and yachts, and also keen on diving. Well, I was at one point. Just wanted to cover my take on it, really. Anyway, I don't think you'll find that useful. You might find it interesting, but just when you are reading the news about any subject at all, especially that could be quite major. The other thing about this as well is that it's all over the news. So why do they want us to look this way? Because Moscow is currently being attacked by drones, and it's all kicking off still in the Middle East and Ukraine. They want us to look elsewhere. Here, look at this, don't look at that. That's what that says to me. And they're continuing to report on this as if it's the major worldwide story that it's not. So yeah, take every news article with a pinch of salt, and keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for listening. Stay prepared.